Hello and welcome to my channel. The topic that we are gonna discuss today is poem I Shall Return to This Bengal, written by Jibanananda Das. So before we begin with the poem, let's discuss about the poet. Jibanananda Das was born in 1899 in East Bengal in Barishal, which is now a part of Bangladesh, and he died in 1954. He took his education and spent most of his life in Delhi and Kolkata. Later, he went back to Barishal, but just before the time of partition in India, he came to Kolkata at his brother's house, and soon after that, partition took place. So he had to stay back at his brother's house, and thus he lived, wrote, and died in Kolkata. But the nostalgia for an undivided Bengal in his romantic evocation of its beauty is prominent. He was deeply influenced by modernist experiments in the Western poetry. However, nature remained a constant presence in his works. This particular poem portrays his love for his native region and his love for nature. His desire to combine the flora and fauna of Bengal is clearly seen in this poem. In the poem, I shall return to this Bengal. The very word this means the Bengal he talks about in the poem, the Bengal where he spent his childhood, and the Bengal he feels longing to. In the poem, the poet says, I shall return to this Bengal, to the Dhansiri bank, perhaps not as a man, but manna or fishing kite. In these lines, Dhansiri is a river in East Bengal, that is Barishal. Now, he mentions here that he wants to go back to Bengal, to his native land, but not as a man, but as a bird, manna or fishing kite. If you don't know what manna and fishing kite looks like, I have inserted the picture. In the next lines, or dawn crow is floating on the mist's bosom to alight in the shade of this jackfruit tree in this autumn harvest land. Here again, he mentions that he wants to return as a crow floating in the mists of the early morning towards the light of the early morning just before the sunrise at the time of dawn and lands in the shade of jackfruit tree in the autumn season, that is early winters. Then the poet says, or maybe a duck, a young girl's bell on my red feet, drifting on culmy scented waters all the day. He again mentions that he would go as a duck and he'll be the pet duck of some teenage girls who would tie bells on his red feet. And then he would spend the whole day floating on the duckweed scented waters. In all these lines, one thing that is very notable is that the poet is ready to forego birth as a human being and return as an avian species, be it a crow, the manna, the fishing kite, or even a duck. A weariness with his own species can be seen in this desire. It is not improbable that the recent acts of men, the World War, and the partition of 1947 may have led him to question his own utility in the nature scheme of things. In next lines, for love of Bengal, rivers, fields, crops, I will come this way to the sad shore of Bengal, drenched by the Jalangi's waves. This means he will return for his love for the crops, the fields. However, he says, the green shore will remain sad, as they are moistened by Jalangi's waves, which are in West Bengal, that is India. The pain of separation is communicated by the means of personification. It is as if Nature is replete with mourning with the partition of Bengal. Next, he says, perhaps you will see a glass fly riding the evening breeze, or hear a barren owl calling from the silk cotton tree. He says, maybe you will see me as a bird drifting in the dusky airflow, or maybe on a silk cotton tree you will hear me screeching as a spotted owl. The continuous mention of the things that can fly portrays the sense of being trapped that the people in the two Bengals felt after the partition. Unlike the case with birds and insects, for whom there are no boundaries. No wonder the poet wants to be a bird or an insect for whom there are no boundaries. In the last lines, the poet says, a little child toss rice grains on the courtyard grass, or a boy on the Rupsa turbid streams stir a dinghy with torn white sail, white egrets swimming through red clouds to their homes in the dark. You'll find me among their crowd. The imagery of a little child or a boy symbolizes innocence of an age gone by and a nostalgia for childhood. The poet is recalling the unforgettable memories of childhood and seeing himself in all these objects. White egrets through the red clouds suggest twilight, the reddening sun, the time and the desire for homecoming. And in the end, he mentions, you will find me in the crowd of those egrets returning home. The poet therefore wants to transcend all the borders and the boundaries that lie between the two countries formed during partition through his imagination. That's all from my side today. So guys, do let me know how do you like my videos and let me know what more topics you wanna see. Thank you so much for watching my video. Do like, share, comment and subscribe to my channel. Bye.